Hey guys, welcome to EuroLeague Fantasy Talks. In this episode, we'll talk about BasketNews EuroLeague Fantasy and my preparation for round 19. We also will check the price growing stats of all the best players and also the best price growing stats for each position. So this is how my team did in round 18. I got 160 fantasy points, and it's probably first time when I got a zero capital gain, so it's neither budget decrease nor increase. And this is because the performance of the guys, I was not fast enough to trade Milutinov on time when the injury got announced, so got a DNP from him, so no effect to the budget. But Karlik Jones, Shorts, and Sedikerskis reduced as much as the other guys brought to the budget. So that's the conclusion. We didn't increase the budget, but at least we got some fantasy points, so we continue climbing. Hopefully we can make more budget positive trades. So let's go and check how much these players need to score in round 19 not to drop their price. Only Francisco is good with minus 5.5. He would not drop his price. Everyone else need to score way above 0 fantasy points. For example, Vezenkov 13.8. He needs to score not to drop his price. Nigel Hayes-Davis with 21 would not drop his price. Bolomboy with 17. Mardon 29.2. Jones and Shorts need more than 36 fantasy points. And Milutinov, of course, he's injured, but the next time he will play, that will be his stats to score for his price not to change negatively. So I have to trade Milutinov. Then I will trade Sedikerskis because he's not delivering as I expected. And I want to trade Karlik Jones because of the budget stats mostly, but also because there is another great guard to pick. So I will go and make those trades now. All right, we're selling Milutinov, Sedikerskis, and Karlik Jones. Karlik Jones has a good matchup against Maccabi, so I think he can perform, but his stats are really not that great, so I would rather pick Kendrick Nunn in the guard section. Kendrick Nunn needs to score 6.9 fantasy points not to reduce our budget, so that's a great threshold for such a player. Kendrick Nunn is on fire in the last few games, and I expect again a great numbers from him, especially when playing at home and playing against Virtus. And for my center, I will pick Daniel Oturu. Oturu needs 3 fantasy points not to drop in price, and he will play against Fenerbahce. And Fenerbahce's weakest link is the center position, so that's why I'm going with Oturu, as he is playing similar minutes to Poirier and sometimes even more, depending on the game. So I just expect for Oturu to crush the front court of Fenerbahce and give us some nice numbers when he will play on Friday. And for my forward, I will pick Mario Hezonja from Real Madrid. Hezonja, even with minus 1 fantasy point, would not reduce his price, and he's the leader of Madrid team together with Campazzo and Tavares, so he will have a lot of shots, a lot of points, and he also gets a good amount of rebounds. And now we will play against one of the worst defensive teams this season with the name of Bayern Munich, so I expect another great performance from him, and that's why I'm picking him. So I'll leave the rotation as it is. So I'll go with Maledon as my captain on Thursday. And because we have 4 players playing on Thursday and 6 players playing on Friday, of course, it's not the ideal ratio, but I take it. And if needed, I will probably go with Nunn as my captain for Friday. Alright, and let's now go check price growing stats for top 10 players in each position. These are the stats for top 10 centers by fantasy points average. Of course, I had to remove the players that are injured. So Devin Booker is now the center with highest fantasy points average, and he needs to score 29.6 fantasy points not to drop his price in round 19. Bolomboy we already saw. Tavares needs to score 30.4 not to drop his price, and Donta Hall 24.8. So the best stats are at Oturu and Neil Sacco. Also, Kavarius Hayes and Poirier have decent stats. Bolomboy is definitely also up for consideration. And let's now go check the forward section. Vezenkov is the leader of fantasy points average, and Mirotic is gaining on him, although Vezenkov has a better stats for price growing, so of course go get him if you still don't have him. Moneka has decent price growing stats for round 19. Jalen Horde, very good with 6.8, he would not drop his price. And of course you see why we picked Hezonja. Guard section is quite similar because there are not so many injuries there, but Maledon is leading and he needs to score 29.2 as we already saw. Campazzo needs to score 22 fantasy points not to drop in price. Kevin Punter is actually also good with 4.7, he would not drop his price. And you might also want to consider Mike James. Kalaitis might be back on this round, so be careful if picking Mike James, because that might not help him get fantasy points if Kalaitis will be taking minutes and assists and shots from him. Alright, and let's now go check the players not depending on their fantasy points average. So players with the best price growing stats in each position for round 19 specifically. So in the center position, we have Neil Sacco with minus 12 is the best stat for price growing. Osmani from FS needs minus 8.9 not to drop his price. Sorkin is actually good now with his performing, and even with -5 he would not drop his price. Motiejunas with -1.4 would not drop his price. Makorvak, even with 0 fantasy points, he would not drop his price. So some players to consider here. And in forwards, we have Ajinsa with -13, he would not drop his price. Terry is outperforming and therefore a good pick for price growing. Polar is mostly because of the last game, but otherwise if you pick him and he would not score as low as -9, he would increase your budget. So all these players would increase your budget if they would score at least 0 fantasy points. And last but not least, we have the guard section with Dwayne Washington leading with -17.8, he would not drop his price. Bellinelli with -8.5. Francisco, we already know. Dovydas Giedraitis also actually with -4.5. And Isaiah Cornier with -1.3. And Rokas Jokubaitis with 0 fantasy points actually would not drop his price. So also a great pick. That's all, guys. I hope I helped at least a little bit for you to decide on your lineups. Otherwise, for more content on EuroLeague Fantasy, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.